there's always that person. You know the one. They're in your workplace, your family, your friend group.
Oh, yeah. We all know exactly who you're talking about.
Right. And today, we are doing a deep dive to give you the exact language you need. Not to fight them, but to actually navigate them.
Which is such a huge distinction, because usually our first instinct is just to go to war.
Exactly. Or to just totally shut down. But our source for this deep dive is actually incredibly fascinating. It's an emotional intelligence curriculum that was originally designed for English learners.
Yeah, but honestly, it is a total masterclass for anyone, native speaker or not, who needs to handle toxic or difficult people without, losing your own mind in the process.
Right, sure. Because this isn't about being manipulative. It's about empowering yourself. It's about keeping your own energy safe and just staying calm.
Right. The goal is never to change the other person. You can't. The goal is emotional regulation.
Yes, emotional regulation, which we'll define a bit more later. But first, before we get to the vocabulary and the specific phrases, we have to talk about the cast of characters we're dealing with here.
The dreaded ensemble cast.
The unwanted ensemble cast, exactly. The source casually breaks them down into 7 really recognizable social labels. And as I read these, you are definitely going to picture specific people in your life.
I'm already picturing them, honestly.
Right. So first you have the interrupter, the person who literally will not let you finish a single sentence.
They're the worst.
Then there's the complainer who just swims in negativity all day. And the drainer, that's the person who just completely zeroes out your social battery the second they walk in the room.
Yeah, drainer is exhausting. They just take and take.
Totally. Then we have the people pleaser gone wrong, the one who agrees with you to your face but then messes things up behind the scenes. The know-it-all, obviously. The boundary pusher who treats the word no like a light suggestion.
Like a challenge, really.
Yeah, a challenge. And finally, the absolute classic, the passive-aggressive person.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the heavy sighs, the rolling eyes, just a nightmare dinner party right there.
Right. But I do have a question about this. Let's unpack this for a second, because is the goal here to just box people in? Like, are we just supposed to walk around permanently diagnosing our coworkers as, drainers or boundary pushers?
No, and that is such a crucial trap to avoid. The source is super clear that these are descriptive labels for behavior. They are not permanent judgments about someone's character.
Okay, so it's what they're doing, not who they are.
Exactly. And there is a really powerful psychological reason for doing it that way. Because, if you say to yourself, my coworker is just a terrible, toxic person, you instantly throw up all your own defensive walls. You get angry.
You're ready for a fight.
Right. But if you tell yourself they are exhibiting interrupter behavior today because they're stressed out, it changes everything. Empathy comes into play. You separate their identity from their action.
Empathy, right. That ability to sort of understand what they might be feeling, even if they're acting badly.
Yes. It shrinks the threat level. You're dealing with a behavior, not an enemy. And that naturally de-escalates the situation.
De-escalate, meaning it brings the intensity and the anger down in the room.
Exactly. Which requires us to really look at what emotional intelligence, or EI, actually means here.
Right.
Because I feel like society has kind of warped the definition.
Oh, 100%. People think having high emotional intelligence just means you're always nice. Like you just swallow your feelings and let everyone walk all over you to keep the peace.
Which is actually the opposite of emotional intelligence. That's just suppressing your emotions.
Right.
Real EI, according to this curriculum, is letting yourself feel the anger or the frustration, but actively choosing how you respond, instead of just reacting blindly.
Okay, so feeling the feeling, but steering the ship. I love that. But honestly, theory is great until you are face-to-face with an interrupter in a Tuesday morning staff meeting.
Oh, for sure. All the theory goes right out the window?
It really does. So let's get into the actual tactics. What do we do in the moment?
Well, first we have to talk about triggers. And the source defines a trigger really well. It's something someone says or does that causes an immediate, intense emotional reaction in you.
Like your heart rate spikes, your face gets hot.
Yes. Your body physically reacts like you're in real danger, even though the threat is just your coworker rudely cutting you off mid-sentence.
It's crazy how fast it happens. Your blood literally boils.
And in that microsecond, when you're triggered, your job isn't to fight back. Your job is to regulate your own nervous system, to de-escalate yourself.
And the vocabulary in the source gives you the exact phrases to do that. Let's start with the interrupter. What do you say when they cut you off?
You don't shout over them. You just firmly and calmly say, I wasn't quite finished. Can I finish my point?
I wasn't quite finished. It's so simple.
It is. Or you can say, hold on, I just want to complete this thought.
I love that because you aren't accusing them. You aren't saying, stop interrupting me, which would just start a massive argument.
Right, because that makes it a charged statement.
Yeah.
A charged situation is full of tense, aggressive emotion. But by saying, I wasn't quite finished, you keep it totally neutral. You're just stating a fact about your own thought process.
It's like pulling the emergency brake on a train. Just completely cuts the momentum.
Exactly.
Okay, what about the complainer or the criticizer, the person who just hates every idea? The source suggests saying, I hear you. What would an ideal version look like to you?
Yes, or that's useful. What's working in your view?
Okay, but let me push back on that one just a bit. Because if I ask my, deeply negative uncle what his ideal version of something is, aren't I just handing him a microphone? Like, won't he just rant for another hour?
I get why you'd think that. It's a really logical fear. But you have to look at how the brain works here. Complaining is incredibly easy. It's just venting raw, unprocessed emotion.
Right, it takes zero effort to complain.
Exactly. But constructing an actual solution, that requires logical processing. So when you ask, what would an ideal version look like? You are forcing their brain to switch gears.
Oh, wow, you're making them do the homework.
Yes. You shift the dynamic. It goes from a charged emotional dump to a neutral problem-solving task. And honestly, most complainers don't actually have a solution, so the rant just sort of loses its steam.
That is brilliant. You refuse to feed their negativity with your own reaction. Okay, we have to talk about my absolute favorite section of this guide, dealing with the passive-aggressive person.
Oh, this is the best part. It's so useful.
It is, because passive-aggressive people rely on you ignoring their bad behavior, right? Like the heavy sighs. The source suggests saying, I noticed you rolled your eyes just now. Did I read that right?
Which is such a bold, amazing move.
Right, because dealing with a passive-aggressive person is like, well, it's like sitting in a dark room where someone keeps elbowing you, but they pretend they aren't doing it.
Yes.
Using that phrase, I noticed you did this. Did I read that right? It's like flipping on a really bright overhead light. You aren't attacking them. You aren't saying, why are you being such a jerk?
Right, you're just pointing at it.
Exactly. You just force their hidden behavior out into plain sight.
What's so psychologically fascinating about that phrase is that it sets a trap. By asking, did I read that right? You give them an out, but you completely destroy their plausible deniability.
Because they have to answer you.
Yes. They either have to openly admit they're mad, which passive-aggressive people hate doing, or they have to awkwardly backpedal and be like, oh, no, I just had something in my eye.
And either way, you win. The toxic tactic is totally neutralized.
Exactly. You've shown them that you see exactly what they're doing, and you refuse to play their game.
But okay, that light switch method works because normal people feel a little bit of social shame when they get caught. What if the person has no shame? What if they just don't care?
Then you are dealing with a boundary pusher.
Right, and handling one rude comment is easy, but someone who chronically crosses the line, that means you have to shift from just a quick response to actually setting a limit.
And this brings us to a huge vocabulary word, boundaries.
Boundaries.
Yeah, and we really need to strip away the pop psychology fluff here. A boundary is not a rule you force onto someone else.
It's a not.
No, it's a personal limit about what you will accept. It's about what you will do if that limit is crossed.
Okay, so the source gives some really natural phrases for this. Like, if you need to be direct with a coworker, you can just say, I'm not comfortable talking about that. Can we change the subject?
Very clear, very professional.
But what if they push back?
Then you escalate your boundary. You say, I need to ask you to stop doing this. It affects me more than you might realize.
It leaves zero room for confusion. But you obviously wouldn't talk to a close friend or a family member like a corporate HR robot.
No, definitely not.
The source gives a great phrase for someone close to you. You say, I care about our relationship, and I need to tell you something directly.
I love that. You affirm the relationship first.
Right. You make it safe. I care about you.
Because a boundary isn't a punishment. You're essentially saying, I want to keep you in my life, but for that to work, this specific behavior has to stop.
But I want to really test this in the real world. Let's do a mini role play here based on what's in the text.
Okay, let's do it.
I want you to be the person venting to me about a problem, and I'll try to coach you using these phrases.
Sounds good. Okay, I have this colleague, and in literally every single meeting, I start to make a point, and he just talks right over me. It's so frustrating, it completely derails my train of thought.
Okay, that is incredibly frustrating. So let's practice this. What are you going to say next time he jumps in?
Honestly, my heart usually just starts pounding, and I just kind of go quiet.
Right, you get triggered, your body goes into threat mode. So instead of freezing, we use the interrupter phrase. You're going to look at him and say, I wasn't quite finished.
Okay, I wasn't quite finished, but what if he pushes back? What if he says, well, we don't have time for your whole point, and just keeps steamrolling me? I feel like in front of the whole room, I'm losing the fight.
Oh, right. That panic is a totally normal biological response. But here is the secret from the curriculum. The goal isn't to win. It's just to stay present.
Wait, the goal isn't to win.
Exactly. Because if you try to win, you need him to apologize or back down. You're handing him all the power. If your only goal is to stay present and hold your boundary, you keep your power. You don't have to conquer him. You just refuse to disappear.
Wow, okay. So how do I hold my ground when he's still talking over me?
You use the broken record technique. You don't argue his point. You don't debate the time limit. You just repeat your boundary calmly. The phrase is, I understand you disagree. My answer is still no. Or, in your case, I hear that we're short on time, but I am going to finish this point.
I hear we're short on time, but I'm going to finish this point.
Yes, you don't owe him a debate. You just stand there like a rock in a stream.
That is so incredibly empowering because I don't have to out-argue him.
Yeah.
I just have to hold my limit.
Exactly. You set a limit and you hold it. Okay, stepping out of the role play for a second. What happens after that meeting ends?
This is the part almost everyone forgets about.
Yes, because physically, interacting with the drainer or a boundary pusher takes a huge toll. Your cortisol is pumping. What do you do in the aftermath?
You have to protect your energy. This is a mass part of emotional intelligence.
The source gives some great internal language for this. The phrases you say to yourself in your own head when you walk away, my absolute favorite is, that's not mine to carry.
Oh, the imagery of that is so good. That's not mine to carry.
Right. It's like you're acknowledging that this toxic person just tried to hand you a heavy, heavy bag of their own emotional garbage, and you are actively choosing to set it down on the floor and walk away.
Another really good one is, I'm choosing not to engage with that, or that's above my pay grade.
Yes, above my pay grade, meaning this person's inability to act like a professional adult is not a problem I was hired to solve.
Right. It's their limitation, not yours. Which brings us to a word that English learners might not hear very often in this context, but it is so important. Decompress.
Decompress. We usually use that to mean like watching TV after work.
Right, but in emotional intelligence, to decompress is an active biological need. It means taking time to intentionally process and release the built-up physical tension in your nervous system.
I always think about that like the driveway moment.
The driveway moment.
Yeah, like you've had a terrible combative day at work.
Yeah.
And you pull your car into your driveway at home, but instead of immediately going inside where your family is, you just sit in the parked car for 5 minutes, staring at the steering wheel.
Oh, I've definitely done that.
Right. You are decompressing. You are waiting for your heart rate to drop so you don't take that charged toxic energy into your house and accidentally snap at someone you love.
That is the perfect example. You are actively checking in with yourself. The curriculum says if an interaction really drains you, you have to realize your mental battery is low. You have to disengage, which means pulling back from the situation without needing a final argument. And take a minute to reset.
So really, when you look at all these phrases, from the meeting room to the parked car, there's one core lesson here. And it's this. I can't control their behavior. I can only control my response.
And that is the absolute foundation of resilience. Taking a few minutes to check in with yourself isn't selfish. It's how you make sure a trigger doesn't force you into doing something you'll regret.
It completely changes how you walk into a hostile room. Let's do a quick vocabulary recap of everything we just covered.
Good idea.
So we started with emotional intelligence, which is feeling your emotions but choosing your response, not just being nice. We talked about triggers, the things that cause an immediate, intense emotional reaction.
And we covered setting boundaries or setting a limit, which are personal rules for what you will accept, not ways to control others.
We talked about how to de-escalate a charged situation to bring the tension down, how to deal with a drainer who empties your energy, and finally, the need to disengage and decompress so your nervous system can recover.
It is such a powerful toolkit, and it works universally, whether you're dealing with an interrupter at a staff meeting or a boundary pusher at a family dinner.
It really equips you for anything. But, you know, before we wrap up, there is one slightly uncomfortable thought I want to leave everyone with.
What's that?
Well, we've spent this whole time talking about how to handle other people. But if these 7 types of difficult people are so common, what happens when we are the ones having a bad day?
Oh, wow, you're turning the mirror around.
Exactly. Could applying this exact same emotional intelligence vocabulary internally help us? Like, could it help us recognize when we are accidentally being the interrupter or the drainer or the passive-aggressive coworker in someone else's life?
That is a phenomenal point.
Yeah.
Because if we recognize our own triggers and actually take the time to decompress, we can make sure we aren't a difficult person someone else has to recover from.
That is a sobering thought, but so important. We would absolutely love to hear how you apply these tactics in your own life. Who's the most difficult type of person for you to deal with on a daily basis? And what specific phrase or technique from today's deep dive do you think will help you the most?
Tell us in the comments. We love reading them.
Yes, please do. And if you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss next week's deep dive.